Welcome to episode 6 of Chatty Issues, where you worry about your issues and I'll worry about my issues, and together we can make things grow. To say I'm excited is an understatement, and generally I try to avoid external conversations to save and really bring in the rawness of the message that we're trying to pump out. But I'm very blessed to have these boys here, these gentlemen, these men, proper men in the room. On my left is Jonesy, John Camilleri, pretty much a lifelong friend / brother. And on my right is a fine young man, and I'm actually looking at his hair, and I'm thinking, has he been to Turkey, man? That's a serious head of hair, and I'm actually very, very envious. Petar Krnjeta. And I'm actually very excited to have him here for many reasons, but I think given his background and given I suppose he's at that age where, you don't really realize how important that age is until something kind of happens. And at 30, his age, I was still partying like a rock star. At 33, I was out with Grant Hackett till 3 o'clock in the morning, had kids, and it was so wrong. And I did that because I wasn't happy. But if you asked me if I was happy, yeah, I was happy. And that guy that died on Chapel Street on Sunday of the 6 kids, I don't know him, may he rest in peace. My personal opinion, and I generally think now, as a happily married father, right, you shouldn't be out at nightclubs and all that stuff. And I'm not talking about him, God bless him, I do not know the guy. But me personally, I won't do that again, because I know the pain and suffering it brought to my family, and I hope his kids and his partners and anyone in his family get to where they need to go, and I'm more than happy to help them out in any way, shape, or form. Life has a strange way of testing the ones that it believes are strong enough to endure it. And today's episode isn't a conversation, it's a journey through pain, redemption, and quiet resilience. My guest today is a gentleman called Petar Krnjeta. A man who grew up in the fine streets of St Albans, Melbourne's western suburbs, where survival meant more than just making it through the day. It meant becoming someone the world couldn't break. From childhood trauma to losing everything he built, including a marriage, properties, and nearly himself, Petar's life has been anything but easy. But what sets him apart isn't just that he survived, it's that he chose to grow. And one of my favorite sayings in the world is death smiles at us all, but all a man can do is smile back. Even though we're not dealing with death, one thing I noticed about this guy, he's always smiling. And the power of a smile, even in your darkest moments, that does wonders. Believe me, I will never stop smiling. Now, as a top real estate performer, a dedicated single dad, and a man rebuilding his life from the inside, Petar's story is proof that our darkest chapters don't define us. How we rewrite them does. What we do with it does. Who we become does. This is not just about redemption. It's about a choice. And I often say the big choices. When I was one of my first jobs ever, I used to work at an ice cream shop, and I used to get $8 an hour, $10 an hour back then. That was actually good money. And I remember coming in on my day off with a $100 note. And my boss knew I wanted to make money in life. And he said, "You told me you're trying to save money." I said, "Yeah." I said, "It's just $3 for an ice cream." He said, "No." He said, "You're breaking a big note." I said, "Yeah." He said, "The big notes look after themselves. Look after the little ones." So, Petar's a friend of John's, actually, and we bumped into each other at a cafe. He got my attention because he was already vibrating at the right frequency. And one thing I'll tell you now, I'll speak to anyone. I'll give him my words. But if they don't work with my words, I don't give him my time, because we can't buy time, as you know, brother.
That's true.
Petar, welcome to Chatty Issues.
Thank you so much. Good to be here.
Thank you. Where it only took me 44 years that there are things called my issues and there are things called daddy issues. Only 44 years, not bad. Petar, would you agree that the gentleman sitting next to you has been single for a while?
Yes, he has.
Okay. The point I'm trying to make is just be careful, because his hands are known to go wandering. No. On a serious note, he's actually one of the most noble and loyal men you'll ever have in your life, and I assure you that. Personally, when I see you, I get excited because of how we met and of my past too. And while that can be mostly fun, while my past was a lot of it was fun, it was mostly destructive, and it led me to where I am sitting here today. Now, regardless of what's happened to me and for me and for my children and for everyone in my family, and the hardest part, believe me, was the pain and suffering it brought to my family, in particular my parents as they get older. And like you said before about the hospitals, I don't tell my parents anymore when I end up in hospital. And I was actually in hospital about 3, 4, 5 days ago, and that's fine. But it's interesting because that, that stage of recklessness as a young man to kind of turning 30 or even being a young man, everything we do, we don't realize at the time, but karma comes back to bite us in the ass. So tell me about St Albans. Tell me about your first memories of life. Tell me about home, and tell me the things that spring to mind.
Yeah, cool. So young kid, little Peter. Believe it or not, I was a very quiet kid. Not as crazy as I am today and vibrant, but I guess it's funny, and we discussed this a little bit earlier, Chad, about, what we are as a kid and what we crave as an adult. And growing up in my household, so mum and dad divorced at the age of 5. I remember that moment. My mum and dad did divorce, where my actual dad jumped across the table and punched my mum and almost killed her. And I didn't understand at a young age. Obviously, being as a kid growing up in a household with my stepfather and my mother and my 2 brothers, it was very challenging. And the challenges I faced as a kid was traumatic because of multiple factors: abuse as a child, which I look at children these days and a father, and where people want to harm children is beyond me. But more importantly, what I was told and how I was told to communicate as a kid, you're strong, don't complain. If you're weak, people will walk over you. You're not allowed to feel that emotion. You need to show strength. Strength comes from a man within. Not to talk. Anyone that knows me, I actually rarely cry. And it's pretty crazy, right? Like I say this all the time. 3 people could bash me off a baseball bat and I wouldn't cry. But if I walk through a funeral, it's the biggest wake-up calling I receive in life, and it humbles me immediately, and I cry more than probably anyone in that service. I talk about this all the time. My one of my best mates, Stan Buzzer, his mother just passed away, and I remember as a kid, because I started my career with Stan, and I never forget, every time I used to go to her house, how she used to always feed me, and she felt that sorry for me, and Stan made it out like my situation worse than what it was. But as a kid growing up, dealing with abuse, racism, which was really, really hard to fathom, because growing up in Australia, I went to school with Africans, I went to school with Asians, I went to school with Europeans. It was actually already pretty multicultural, growing up in the early 2000s. And I remember, going to school, and I was friends with everybody. My dad used to tell me as a kid, and, I take this on board always, is if someone respects you, respect them.
Just to get an understanding, your parents separated at 5.
Yep.
So just to understand, so when did the stepdad come in? So I'm just trying to work out who shaped you in what way.
It was funny, right? So my mum, I think, went through a period. I'm just trying to remember because I was a kid, and I'll be honest with you, I don't remember much before 12 because it was traumatic for me. But I think my mum was single for a little while, and then she introduced him as a friend. So she played at that angle.
Generally, he was a good guy.
Look, at the start, he was quite good. Obviously, me and my brothers were a little bit reserved because we didn't know how to take him. We didn't know who he was. Obviously, as a child, it's traumatic not seeing your dad. There were times in my life where I didn't see my dad for months because my mum didn't allow me to. And I'd ask the question, and she'd just say, look, he doesn't answer his phone. He's not sending anything. My dad photocopied every letter he ever wrote to us and kept it in a box. And yeah, as I'd say from the ages 7 to 10, I was belted on a weekly basis. And I don't know if you know Bruce Lee's story, right? But coming back from a, third dan black belt and Jeet Kune Do, which was, funded and made by Bruce Lee. My great instructor from Korea, Chung Wung, he was the founder of ITF, Taekwondo. And there was a lot of lessons I learned traveling to Korea, fighting internationally, and getting an understanding of why is it that I stem back to the martial art. And it was funny, Bruce Lee, the reason why he actually learned how to fight was 3 kids bashed him and stole his bike.
It's usually the way.
And I never forgot it, because when I got bashed the first time by my stepdad,
At what age?
7 years old, I never forget that. Yeah, it was, I think for me, it was more of a shock because he hit me out of nowhere and I didn't know what the reasoning was. It just hit me out of nowhere.
Just a kid, man.
And it sort of built up over time. But as I got to an older age, obviously, the fear and the anger pushes you. And obviously venting this to my dad was my best friend my whole life. Without my dad,
Still is till now, right?
till today. Yeah. So
How good's that?
yeah, it's amazing, And
I have that with my son, yeah?
yeah. And it's funny because like what they sort of generalize is most kids that grow up as a male is a mummy's boy. But it was the complete opposite to me. I didn't have that with my mum. And I never forget, I asked my mum one day, I said, why do you allow him to bash me? And she goes, I can't do anything because he pays the bills. And when I heard that comment, it absolutely destroyed me, because as a parent, I always thought, and especially my son.
So do you still see mum now?
We see each other, but we don't really have a relationship. And I've been told by my therapist multiple times we should chat about it and talk about it. But I find it hard to forgive my mum because, again, and not sort of chopping my mum out here, but my mum was an orphan. In 3 broken families. She was raised in a Muslim Bosnian family. Then she was raised by Italians. So she went from home to home. So sometimes to a degree, and I guess God sort of asked me to forgive her sometimes when I talk to him. But I think, from my traumatic experience, I learned very, very quickly racism, hate, anger. I
can see why.
And these are things I didn't want to be. And growing up in a household, I won't mention which brother, but my brother grew up in gangs. He was part of, bikie groups. And I saw a lot of things in my time. At the age of 12, talking about St Albans, I actually had a gun pulled on me. I was 12 years old. I'll never forget this. And there's 2 ways to go home from St Albans station. So I probably walked 8 to 10 minutes to go to the station every day. My parents never drove me or anything. So they always said, look, fitness is important. You got to grow up as a man. So you could cut the way around through the alleyway, which would take 4 minutes to get home, or you'd walk 20 minutes around. And me being a fat, lazy kid, which I was, that's the truth. I was walking down this alleyway, and I never forget it. It was probably when I was in grade 5. I came out of this alleyway and I chucked a left, and a VX Commodore. It was a blue one. I still remember the number plates to this days. Because I got a great memory like that. But I was very street smart from the ages of like 7.
That's a trauma response, yeah?
And 100%.
You become hypersensitive to that. And I didn't know that till I was 44 years old.
There you go.
I thought I was just born like that.
And I'll never forget it. And I came out of the street and, as I came out of that street, this car started approaching me and I saw 4 guys in the cars with balaclavas on. And I thought, oh my God, what's going to happen here? Like, this thing started running to my mind. Do I run? Nah, be tough. Don't worry. Don't show them that you're scared. But I was dying inside. And I remember a guy pulling out a shotgun. It was a 30-30. And he asked me, where's your brother? And young kid, no idea. Never, ever heard of my family being in crime. Never even really expecting something to happen. And it sort of was a big wake-up call for me, because in that moment then it taught me I don't want to be a part of this shit. And, and it was very heartbreaking for me, because my dad, legitimate man, he never done drugs. He was a very family proud man. We were everything to him still till today. And I could see, like, when I went home, and I didn't want to tell anyone because I was scared. And again, going back to those emotions as a kid, don't talk, don't say anything. And when my brother got home, I told him about it, and I never forget like the anger and the rage, and to me, that was apparently a normal upbringing, and that's where St Albans started. Growing up with friends in school, it was very, very common. Stabbings, people on drugs from a very young age.
Just another suburb in the outer west.
And it was crazy because when I stemmed it now when I look at myself and I look at the younger generation, like what hope do we give if the parents are allowing that?
If, unfortunately, this couple of sad truths. One is parents don't raise their kids these days, and that's what I'm doing. What I'm doing, the internet raises their kids, or the school teacher raises their kids, and it's another whole topic conversation altogether.
Yeah.
But I just want to go back to a couple of things because you made some valid points. You said your dad was sending stuff and he took photocopies or whatever.
Yep.
To any father or mother that has no contact with their kids, I would highly recommend doing this. Even you can find out a bank account, even the lawyer's account, right? Put $5, $10 or whatever regularly. It's not about the $5 or $10. It just goes to show them, here's a documented history that I never forgot about you.
Yeah.
I did what I could at the time. Dude, I can only imagine what it would have been like to grow up with that kind of household. Unfortunately, I have the opposite. And I think I told you when I met you, I grew up some very, very rough guys.
Yep.
I could handle myself.
Yep.
I had no urge to. And it wasn't until later on my toughest mates would come out and tell me that they grew up in violent homes or they were sexually abused or whatever. Moving forward, you've spoken about the pain behind closed doors. What was it like carrying that weight as a kid and then later on as a young man?
Oh, that's a hard one.
I don't muck around here, Pete. I'm gonna pull the oxy out, mate.
I think it was very interesting because and I said this earlier, like growing up as a kid, I didn't feel like I got a childhood, and it's very sad to say that.
That's why you're such a good dad.
And it does. It stems back to that because I feel like I lost a generation because I had to grow up so fast because I was in survival mode from the ages of 7. And people ask me all the time, and I said this earlier, you come across so much older or so much wiser. And I said, because when you go, there's 2 types of smarts in this world, I believe. There's street smart and there's book smart. You're one or the other.
And like I said earlier, men don't mature through age. They mature through pain, hardship, and wisdom. Johnny, I just want to ask your opinion on something because as he's talking, I'm trying to match the VIN plates, we'll call it. I haven't met his dad. Have you met his dad?
I met him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's spoken briefly about his mum. Generally, when you attract, say, a traumatized partner as a male, you're generally a nice guy, a fixer kind of guy.
Mate, now that I've met both of his parents a few different times, you ever look at a couple and go, man, how did that work?
We spoke about that.
And a few times I've done that. Like, man, I'm not speaking ill of either of your parents, but they're just polar opposite. Now, I can say the same thing.
Yeah. And myself.
Well, I'll look at the version of my ex-wife today. Resembles nothing of what I knew, but was that really her back in the day? Right? A couple of things have just sort of hit home for me on the way through, just like, things talking about like, why you're allowing to hit me. Like, that hurt me to hear that, right? And a 7-year-old, not exactly what you call a fair fight, but he pays the bills. I've also heard of plenty of people that have said, you know what, I'm grabbing the kids and I'm leaving. Yeah?
Different kind of, his age era, we'll call it, was the parents were a little bit less trigger happy. Or the mothers or the fathers, they'll let's face it, man, they kind of brushed it all under the carpet and they paid the price. But now the problem we have today is everyone's trigger happy.
With his dad though, and there's been a few times like, would go on to the football or something last year. Like, the guy doesn't have 2 cents to rub together. Right? And I mean that in a bad way.
That's true.
Like, he's if you're cold and he's wearing that, you're wearing it. That's how he is.
He's like you, yeah.
And he's come out a few times. Like, I remember one time we went to the few, like, he was taking Lando out, whatever the case. He's come with money. Pete's like, what are you doing? You're taking my son out, I'm paying you. right? And just the mindsets I've noticed with the parents, again, not speaking ill of the two, it's just very different.
How is he now?
My dad, 67.
No, how is he? How is he?
How is he? Oh yeah, look, Chaddy
Has he moved on? Partner?
Yeah, so my dad's been with his partner now for 5 years. It's actually funny you asked me that. I actually said to her the other day, when we had a gathering at my house, I said to her, I'm very privileged to see such a beautiful woman in our life. But more importantly, very honoured that you look after my father, because I'm not always around.
As you talk to me, brother, I don't know why I've got such a soft spot for you. Maybe because my son's only just turned 14, but he already starts to embody exactly what you do. And I could see, you know what? Again, he actually came up to my partner recently and said something very, very similar.
And
and that takes a lot of strength.
It does. And it's funny, like, because I look at my dad now and I just hit my dream finally in life. And people, estate agents, they look at themselves and they've got a lot of ego. They want to drive a Ferrari, they want to live in Brighton, they're all about the image. But the biggest goal I had in my life, because my dad's done it tough his whole life, and my mum pretty much got everything out of the separation. And I remember the legals and everything, like $600,000-$700,000, 12 years in courts. My dad fought
break my record, 12 years.
Yeah, and really, really tried to, and try to get us to go live with him. And I never forget it. And I said this to actually Bassam Toffoli, and he is actually one of the first people to ring me. When I used to work at YPA, I told him that one day I'm going to buy my dad a house. And Bassam told me about the story how he bought his family's houses. And I think for me, that was a massive thing because, I never forget it. I met a couple of, millionaires in my job, and they told me, like, you go buy a nice car, you'll get over it within 3 to 4 days. And they go, bullshit, like, drive a nice car, this is really cool. And my mate gave me his 911 Porsche, and he gave me it to drive for like 2 days. He goes, here, take the keys, go for it. I reckon it was within a day. I didn't even reckon it was a full day I drove it. I just picked up birds and I was driving around. I thought it was cool. I didn't even reckon it was a full day, and I was like, would I pay $400,000-$500,000 for this? Probably not.
Now, because you did it,
yeah,
you lived it, you breathed it, you understand it. But you tried telling a young kid, they're not going to believe it, man. Yeah.
And that's the hard part. I remember another guy in my real estate career was one of my mentors. He said, you can't put an old head on a young body. And it's very true. Because, as you said, you got to go through your formalities of trauma, understanding, experience.
You got to take those photos that you spoke about before.
Yeah, 100%. And I hit my biggest goal in my life. I bought my dad a house. And
Pete, that is a testament, like, to mentality. Believe me, one of the most pathetic things I ever see in life is some people, we all know, they're very well off. Their parents are living in a normal house, whatever. Do you think they even give them $100 a week?
Yeah. I think the most disgusting thing I see is this generation likes to take, but it doesn't like to give. And that's one of the reasons why I'm sitting here today.
To give back.
Not to say, look at me.
No, I know.
To say, no, but mostly when we had our chat at the cafe, we could have spoke for 4 hours. I felt that.
Yeah.
We spoke for probably 20, 30 minutes. I said, sorry, Chad, I got to go.
Yeah.
But I said, we will chat again. I'm here today. And it's amazing when you look at people's journeys, and I love the saying, never judge a book by its cover. You just don't know what people are battling.
And what's the one I told you today? A bit from Plato. I love my Plato. Be kind, for everyone you meet is fighting a battle.
It's true, yeah.
It's true. That's why, like, with road rage and all that now, I don't even bother. Someone says something funny or whatever, I don't bother.
Yeah.
One, I don't want to give them my energy. B, I got enough court cases. And I'll tell you now, believe me, if someone comes at me a road rage, God bless, have a good day. I'm sorry. I'll never say sorry, but have a nice day, whatever.
It's good attitude.
But yeah, you don't want to go to court. You don't want to waste
times I've refused.
Don't want to
what
you don't want to. Have you not got enough things to do? Honestly, someone gave you the bird. Good luck to him.
Yep.
Transformation and self-reflection. You admitted to falling into views that you now reject. That kind of honesty takes courage. Very few people will say that. What triggered the shift in you? And was there a specific moment where you knew you had to change, or was it more of a slow cooker, a slow realization?
There's two answers to that question, in my opinion. The trauma I faced as a child, as I said, brought me to grow very fast and probably become an adult before I was an adult. But also, I guess my marriage breakdown was the catalyst to who I am today. And that was massive.
Absolutely. I asked you a question before.
And yeah, it's crazy, you know, because like, I remember someone said this to me once, yeah, and he actually broke up with his partner and they're actually back together today. I won't say who it is. I don't want to put anyone under the bus, but he said to me, we were single for 3 years and we got back together. They didn't have kids at this stage, but he said to me, I don't know why he said this, but he goes, 2 years from now, when you're divorced, you'll look back at that woman and two things will hit you. And I said, what is that? And he said, you'll either go, I fucked up and I need to fix it and get her back because I can't live without her. Or you'll say, thank you, God.
He's 100% spot on.
And I'll tell you one thing, man. I say every day, thank you, God.
Pete, I swear to God, yesterday you saw that photo I posted. Look, man, that photo I posted, I was actually running in the dark. I was out the other side of town. I won't mention why. I won't share the location because no one will believe a guy like me lives in fear of certain things out of my control. And that's why I'm doing what I do as well. No one believes men. Secondly, I was running in the dark and I was listening to a song by Kenny Rogers, and it's called I Wish It Would Rain, right? And the song is about he's sick of crying and he wishes it would rain so raindrops will clear my teardrops, right? And he doesn't want people to know that he's crying. Mate, I still cry, but here's the good news. Just about all my cries are tears of joy, man.
Amazing.
I'm telling you, brother, I still cry. Like,
that's amazing.
But I cry because I'm so blessed to have my kids. I cry because I'm so blessed to have my Sarah. I cry because I have just beautiful people in my life. Jesse's my lifelong friend. Gavinator is, just loves my omelettes. It's a private joke. I cooked him the worst omelette one night. I still hear about it till now. So, like I said to you before, one of the best things, and I'll say this, and I want people want to be very clear about this. One thing you will realize when you go through the dark is that the ones that you think will be there for you somehow are not. And the best surprise you'll ever have is people that will come out of nowhere and just open up doors and avenues and love. And I'll tell you a little story, man. And the day I was meeting David Goggins, like I didn't know who he was. I only just got into him just before my divorce. And one day I decided to start running. I couldn't run for shit, ended up running 17 kilometers, whatever. And every time I would run, I just say to myself, one day I'm going to meet him and all I want to do is just shake his hand and say thank you. Not give me some magic words, right? Because he's you can go on any one of his YouTube, online stuff and you can see his mentality.
Absolutely.
I just want, as a man, to say thank you. Never in my wildest imagination did I ever expect to have a 2-hour dinner with him. Never did I ever expect for it to go 5 hours. It was the best night of my life. But here's where I'm going with this. So back then I used to take the kids to school.
Yep.
And then go to the gym. And after the gym, sometimes you don't want to get in your car because you're a bit hot. So I just walk down the pier just to cool down. So I'm walking along the pier and the realization came, I'm meeting Goggins tonight. Dude, in Palestine when mothers wail for their kids, I started wailing. I'm talking like uncontrollable wail. You know what I did, man? I'm such an empath. I didn't want people to see me or hurt anyone's feelings. So I went to the end of the pier and I ducked underneath the pier. I actually got it on my phone. I filmed it for me just to show anyone one day that, this is what I've been there. Anyway, so man, I'm talking like dripping, like sweating, like Jermaine Jackson, glistening, with tears. And all of a sudden, I feel these warm arms around me. It was an old lady, about 150 years old. She got down on her hands and knees, gave me the biggest hug.
Wow.
Pete, I said to her, listen, you beautiful soul, this is not what you think it is, because she thought I was going to kill myself. I said, these are tears of joy, right? I said, these are tears of joy. And in the video, I remember saying to myself, no one will ever understand this pain, but it has to happen.
Yep.
Right? You have to cry to let that pain out.
Yep.
And you cried. You said you didn't cry, but you do cry at funerals. It means you're a human. And you don't cry at certain things because you're tough. Believe me, man. Like, there's nothing wrong with crying. I'll tell you now. You know, this is life.
Yeah.
And we're men, you know, we don't need much. We just need what we're designed to do, which is protect, serve, and create.
Yep.
Yeah. Loss and rebuilding, divorce, addiction, financial loss. That's a brutal trifecta.
Yeah.
What was the lowest point for you, and how did you begin to crawl out of it? And by the way, I love party stories, so you can tell me all of them because I've been and done that. How'd you crawl out of it? Orlando, your beautiful son, which is sitting here on my left, who's playing DJ Khalid with the headphones on. Actually, I can't stand him, so I'll use Boris Brescia, my favorite DJ. Your son. So Orlando became your anchor, and what has fatherhood taught you that nothing else could? And just on that, I actually genuinely do not believe you'll ever understand life until you create. And the older you get, the more respect you'll have for your parents. And I'll say this as well, and I hope one day you have a daughter, because John will agree, and I didn't want daughters, by the way. I'm cursed when I had daughters, and that's another show on that altogether. But
Yeah.
But I learned, God taught me a lesson. He told me that you'll never become a real man to your father's daughters, because you realize how precious a woman is, man.
Well, it's funny, right? Like, worst part of my divorce, I'd have to say it was Easter 2021. I just had a big bender. And I remember I went to sleep at 3 a.m. I was in my newly built home. I thought having a $2 million house near the water was everything in life, to then realize how empty I was inside. And my brother remembers this. I called him that day. It actually gives me goosebumps talking about this, but I'm going to go for it. And I remember I was really, really hungover, and I just started to cry. Just uncontrollably crying. And people could say it's the drugs, but
No, man.
I think it was more
The blockage.
I think it was something. I think it hit me in that moment. I was divorced. I actually woke up to it, and I finally accepted it, which I didn't. I kept saying, it's this. I don't. My brother kept saying to me, you need to take time off work. You need to digest it. And I always say to him, I need to keep working. And mind you, I had the best year of my career in sales as I was getting divorced. Now, there's a correlation now. I'm going to dive into that a little bit later, but I never forget, I was crying, and I rang up my brother and I said, I feel so lonely. I want to kill myself. This isn't my life. Why is God putting me through this? Why am I so lonely? I should be so happy. I've achieved so much. But all I was missing was my family.
Hold that for a sec. Two things. Most important thing is those questions that you've asked yourself back then. What are the answers now that you know? What's the answers now?
The biggest one for me, the biggest one for me was, I believe you get two things out of any situation being pulled through, right? And when I say pulled through, I mean, it's either one, it's a lesson, or it's a blessing. And I look at everything in life now. Me sitting in this room, it's a blessing. If I can give anyone advice, if I can help anybody, like I said, it's not about me today. It's about, one, giving to this channel, because I believe men aren't heard in this country. I'm not sexist in any way, but I do believe.
And just on that, just to be clear, we spoke about this before.
Yep.
One of my biggest messages, please, and I beg everyone listening, this podcast is not about me or Pete or John or my kids or whatever. I made a choice one day when I felt that pain, the most horrible pain you could ever feel. I said to myself, at my worst point, I don't know how, but when I get out of this, I'm going to help others so they never feel this. I didn't think there was going to be a podcast or whatever. But most importantly, my podcast or our podcast, our show that we're doing, it's not about division.
No.
Because that's the devil's work. We need to work together. Men and women are born to work together like the hands and feet.
Absolutely.
So these children didn't ask to be born, right? It's beyond us. I come from a lineage, and I'm sure you do. I can tell from your ethics, they come from your father, I'm sure. And I'm sure, your mum, deep down somewhere, she is a good soul, bro. And I understand trauma, especially with women, because, some people go through a trauma and they generally do their best. Some people make it their business card, right? So we can't control that. We can't control the laws. The other message is the only thing we're in control is our choices.
Yep.
Our choices, man. The system is not broken. I repeat, the system's not broken. The system is designed to do what it needs to do, right? Whether it's broken or it's not broken, it doesn't matter. Understand the power of your choices, right? And believe me, it's the small choices. It's the ones that you let go. If you listen to your subconscious like you have been, and through reflection and through hard work and through looking around, taking accountability to that magic word, everything comes. And like John, like you, I'm not talking to guys with blocked hearts. I'm talking to guys who accepted their cards and are living with an open heart. That takes a lot of strength and power. But please, if you can get behind this show, because I actually want to give back. I want to help people. I want to align with a good lawyer who actually doesn't rip people off. So not only are you going through a divorce, but you're also getting ripped off by a shark. I don't want that. I want people who listen to this show to know whoever aligns with us is going to add value. They're not going to, they know they're actually getting looked after. I want that kind of lawyer.
I just want to jump in there for a second if I can, Chad. My family lawyer, and I wouldn't mind having him on this show, Dominic. Let me describe Dominic. Dominic's probably, from when I look at it from a business, from
I actually met him. I've been in person.
Education, from multiple things.
No nonsense kind of guy.
No nonsense, but more importantly, how much he gives. I'll tell you this story. I walked into his office one day, and yes, we do business together. I've, give him all my referrals of my clients when they sell property. But I remember walking into his office one day, and probably going to stun the guys in the studio here, but I walk up to Dominic and, I was expecting a hefty bill for my case. It took 9 months to settle, which was good. I was happy about that, considering my parents took 12 years and spent over $500,000 in legal, which I think is ridiculous. And I always said this, the system's always made out to win in favor of, which I believe, heartbreak, because from that heartbreak, you get emotions, you get ego. And who basically profits off that? The legal system, right?
2 loans, 2 lawyers.
There you go.
Two new houses you have to buy.
Yeah.
2 new car.
Yeah, it's look, I always said it, and I said this to my ex-wife from the start. I didn't accept it at the start because I wanted to fix my relationship. I tried counseling.
We all did.
Everything.
Yeah, we all did.
But I think where I'm trying to get back to Dominic was, I walked into his office one day. Now, he had his invoice in an envelope for me. And I swear to God, strike me down if I'm lying here, but I could never, ever forget this moment. And I said this to him when I met him, and we went through that sort of style together. He gave me the invoice and he said, look, this is how much you owe me. It's all done now. And I didn't want to open it there and there because I shit myself. I was like, fuck, it's going to be like 130 grand or 200 grand. How much am I fucking paying?
No one.
Right? Not that I was scared of the money. Like, don't get me wrong.
No one, what do you call it? No one wants a gaping.
I
That's
performed.
John's words. John's words.
And it's even worse because 100% because like, you know, you're going through the process, and I never said, hey, how much am I actually going to get charged here, right?
Actually, I've got to be politically correct. There are some people that want a fisting, right? And it'll keep everyone happy.
And I went home that night, and again, I keep talking about it because I lost 2 of my best friends to suicide. And one of them when I was 14 years old, her name was Shaniz, God rest her soul. She jumped in front of a train because someone got a nude of her and they said they were going to go to her Muslim parents, and she said she was going to get belted and killed. And she was really scared. And that's a true story. And I had another friend that...
Because that's how it was back then.
Well, it was very rough, yeah. Like, it was hard, like strict Muslim parents.
I get it.
Don't get me wrong, she's a very respectable girl.
You couldn't marry... Like back now, we're a mixed bag of lollies now. It doesn't matter who, like people beyond that.
And then the second one was Ricky Asiak, and you know, until today, I still go and visit his tombstone there in Keilor. But he was I don't say many people were better than me at football at a young age, and I was very competitive, right? And it's not ego. I just thought I was very good at what I did, and I did my ACL. But that's another story. And I never forget. He said to me, you know, I'm going to go to Thailand. He was so excited. He was going on this schoolies trip. And the knackered it down to glandular fever. The guy went from 86 kilos to about 59 in a matter of 8 weeks. And he was studying to be an accountant. So really, there's a correlation with a really smart footballer being a very good footballer. Because our coach used to say to us, 95% is above the shoulders, which is very true. Because if you thought ahead of the time and you were... If you look at any of the best players, like just to name a few, Gary Ablett, Chris Judd, you know, not that I agreed with his decisions, Ben Cousins, but... if you look at the class of those players, now Ben Cousins being a crazy AFL player, you know, and someone that follows the AFL religiously because that was my dream as a kid, you know, you look at these players, they all had something in common, and it was the smarts of the game. And going back to what I've seen with these, you know, trends of people that are the best in the industry, they were constantly investing in themselves. And how did I get through that was multiple things. It was seeing a therapist. Morris saved my life. He taught me how the brain works and why it works the way it does. Why did I constantly repeat back to my drug addiction and alcoholism? Was multiple factors. It was because I was abused as a kid. It was the trauma of my family.
You know, before my journey, I thought someone that loves drugs just loves drugs. No, man.
I say this all the time, and I don't endorse drugs, and I'm not ashamed to say that I did drugs because that taught me a lesson in life and what to do and what not to do. But to cut to the chase, I got home that night. I was with Dominic, and I actually rang him after I opened it, but I opened up the envelope. Now, legally as a business, to charge a client, you need to charge something. That's the law. He can't put zero on the invoice because he opened up the file in his accounts. He charged me $1. Now,
he doesn't have to do that.
I'm not, and I'm not saying this because I want him to get on the show. I'm not saying this. I'm just saying there's people in life
that are like that, man.
That are still good humans.
My show is also about giving the unsung heroes and a platform, dude. And this is, I don't want to attract some big law firm. No. I want the guy who has skin in the game.
Yeah,
who has like. He does it for more than just money. It's in his blood.
Yeah.
You know, like my daughter, I don't know if I told you, when I got bail, she you know, the next morning they all came to visit me. And by the way, that was the best time of my life. Being locked up was the best thing ever to happen to me. It wasn't long at all, but it was the best thing ever to happen to me. Next day, my kids came to visit me. So at my parents'. My mum opens the door. They all come charging at me. They gave me a hug and kiss and a card, and they even drew me in there on the card behind, like locked up behind bars as a cartoon. And that was the line in the sand for them. And so my oldest one goes to me, Dad, where's your charge sheets? I said, you're not seeing that. Anyway, she's a smooth operator, that one, yeah. So I'm hugging and mucking around with the other two. She I didn't know. She's come back from my room with the charge sheets in hand. She disappeared for like half an hour. She read all my charges. She goes, Dad, this is bullshit. That's bullshit. It's all bullshit.
How old was your daughter at this time?
13.
13 years old, and she's asking for charge sheets.
Yeah, watch this. Get better.
And understood them.
Yeah, understood. Yeah. She's like a computer. And I'll tell you, it's...
Wow.
Do you know, I'm not going to mention these boys' names, but there's some some very wealthy family that would probably all know. I'll come back to that story in a sec. So she's come back. She said, Dad, this is all bullshit. She said, I'm going to be a lawyer.
Wow.
Well, she was joking, man. I wanted to be a porn star when I was younger, yeah? Like, whatever.
Still do.
You still do. So, unfortunately, I've got a disability. But anyway, so, yeah, I thought she was joking, right? And then
How old is she now?
she's now just turned 18. She's just started her first year.
Studying law.
Yeah, yeah.
So from
Hang on, not just studying law.
Wow.
I've got to be very careful what I say because there's currently stuff before the courts. But put it this way, she didn't go to school for 6 months, right? I can't say why she didn't go to school, but let me say it was out of her hands, right? So she came from out of nowhere. And I must admit, St Michael's Grammar, I'm forever in debt to them. And look how God teaches me a lesson. I say to myself, I would never send my kids to a grammar school ever.
Yep.
Somehow she ended up there, right?
Yep.
And I'll tell you, when I went to her valedictory ball, I was against. I say, what a bunch of wankers, whatever. Mate, did I have egg on my face? I've never I've never seen such history, such unity. I mean, dude, we grew up in the West, yeah? So just walking to the office, I got blown away, let alone bed. By the way, I sat next to a Malaysian prince.
Wow.
He's my friend's actually friends of his daughter, and he actually invited us to go visit him.
Amazing.
Yeah. So I learned, be open, don't judge about schools, about people.
Yeah.
And I swear to God, one of the things I plan on doing with this, I had a friend of mine that passed away. He died in a car accident, burnt beyond recognition, right? And he just turned, his birthday was recently. Vernon, I love you to death. And I got to say this, he was Aussie. He'd always say to me, Marhaba Shadwan, every morning, like, how you going, man? Like, he's an unbelievable guy. Anyway, and I swear to God, just before he passed, John, do you know what he said to me? He said, Chad, I can feel I'm not going to be around for much longer. He ran off the road and hit a car, man, and hit a pole and burnt beyond recognition. That's what he said to me. So I said to myself, when this podcast takes off and gets traction, I actually want to do a scholarship in his name at St Michael's so that the next Zoe Asafiri gets a Guernsey. That's my mentality, bro. Believe me, I'm a Kmart and Target guy. By the way, I'm wearing this Spartan today for a cause. So my friend Lenny, who I had on the previous podcast, we did a 21K Spartan race together. Best one of the highlights of my life, to push your mate through that. And Spartan have been kind enough to give us tickets for all the future Spartan races in Australia. And we just have to make our own way for now. So if anyone can please get behind us, for this cause. I generally want to help these guys as much as I can and add as much value. These are the things that I value. People that have had a hard run. I'm an underdog. Like, I still go out of my way to support the underdog. I don't go to McDonald's, man. I don't go to KFC.
By the way,
I'm that guy. Yeah.
In case you missed the episode, right? I mean, obviously, I watched mine when that happened, and obviously got other episodes that came after that. His story blew me away.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man, what a story. And then you see you posting that later where you're doing this thing. I'm like, man, that humbled me. Big.
Humbled.
God bless you, man. If you see this, brother.
John, you know how hard it was to carry him?
Right.
I'll tell you how hard it was to carry him.
But he's done it.
You know when you move a house, everyone hates lifting the fridge. Right? So you can move the whole house.
I've moved 7 times, man. My mum and dad. Oh, my God.
So imagine lifting a fridge for 21 kilometers, right? And towards the end, ran out of water. Lucky he had a frozen bit of water, and he gave it to me in the end. And on the war movies and the guy's dying and he's getting that little drip. I had to run X amount of a kilometer for it because it was frozen to defrost to get a little sip.
Yeah.
And I didn't perform as well as I wanted to, but I'll tell you, there's a bit of a golden nugget in this. So at the end, I was disappointed in myself, and Sarah was there, and she came to give me a hug, and silly me, I said, just get away from me. I was really just disappointed. I shouldn't have said that, but she didn't give up on me. And there's one more obstacle. It was that rope.
Yep.
John, I've actually I think I've seen the rope once, and this is at the previous Spartan race.
Yep.
And I used to look at those guys climbing up, and I say to myself, "Fuck, man, I could never do that."
Mm.
I go, "Fuck, that's next level fitness. Do that. Watch how the brain, right?"
Mm.
So Sarah goes, "Do it." I said, "Okay, don't worry about it. I'm not going to do it." My son comes up to me. His dad, "You're doing it, John." I grabbed that fucking rope and I watched it over and over again because another guy started before me, and I'm probably the heaviest, right?
Mm.
I grabbed that rope, right? Watch how the brain works. I grabbed it negative. I can't do it, right? But I just pulled, and once I got traction, I became like a fucking monkey because I discovered a different world that I didn't know existed.
Yep.
When I look back now, two things. I forgot I've been doing chin-ups all year. Secondly, I actually know I probably could have gone on the truss, done 3 chin-ups, and then climbed back down.
Mm.
But the brain's design, it only knows what it knows.
Correct.
Once you break that barrier, it's like the Roger Bannister story. The
Yep.
guy, yeah, they all started breaking the record after him.
Yep. It's true.
So that's for me. I have to get out the comfort zone to do this, man.
Mm.
You know, I have to get out the comfort zone. So health, mindset, and growth.
Yeah.
What's that mean to you?
Geez, that's the biggest one, I reckon. Like
Everything.
it's funny, yeah. I remember someone saying to me once, "Show me a fat millionaire." And I mean, there is a few. I'm not saying they're all super fit, but
Fat trainer, I call that.
you know, like someone that's invested. Like I always say, there's a saying. I think it goes along the lines of, "You take care of you, I'll take care of me, and together we'll take care of everything else." And it's very true because everything starts with you, you know, and
Eye specialist.
literally-
Eye specialist. Eye.
it's true. It's true because, like, see, the story about me quickly with fitness. So, one of my mates asked me to jump in indoor soccer. I wasn't really a soccer person. I played football my whole life. I actually thought people that played soccer were faggots. No pun intended there. It's just I thought you were gay if you played soccer, right? Anyways,
That's how it was.
yeah, like you were tough if you played footy, right? Anyways, my youngest brother was an awesome tennis player, as Serbians as we are. Djokovic inspired, right? And my older brother was a footy player, so I always followed the older brother because I was trying to be better than him. And Rob was a gun forward. I could never kick like him because he was a left footer, but I was a gun centreman that done a lot of running. Anyway, so I went and played indoor soccer one day, and I actually never broken a bone in my body. And for the first fucking time in my life, I broke my ankle on both sides. Now, when I broke it, I actually tried to stand up and I screamed because I never felt this sort of excruciating pain. Now, I was probably like 2 centimeters off from the bone coming out of my leg.
Wow.
It was that bad that because I was 100 kilos at the time, where I snapped the left side and there was that much pain. I threw my right weight on my right hand side. So imagine going snap, snap. Now, I was 1 centimeter off having surgery. And I said to the doctor, "How do we determine if we need surgery?" And he said, "Listen, if your leg doesn't start to heal over 4 or 5 weeks," because they put me in a cast, and then a moon boot. It took me 6 months, no fucking bullshit, Jad, to learn how to walk again. And I said to one of my mates,
Did you get fat?
I actually didn't put on a lot of weight because I was conscious of what I ate, but I did put on like 6 or 7 kilos very quickly.
And mentally?
And that was the one that killed me the most, because imagine going to work with a suit on every day and you're wearing a fucking moon boot. Like, it was like, people looked at me like, who the fuck is this retard? And I thought that was a actual negative. But again, I told you, it's a lesson or a blessing, right? I actually looked at it as a blessing because I used to say to them, look, I used to always joke at them and say, "Hey, I need your business because I need to afford a new moon boot." And they always used to laugh because they go, "Fuck, that's actually pretty funny. Like, this guy's disabled, but he's still working." And it was funny because when I used to do appraisals for double stories, I used to be on crutches. So imagine going up the stairs, the vendor's giving me the tour of the home, and I'm going up in crutches. And I couldn't drive for 6 months either because they said, "Look, you're not covered. If you have an accident, you can't drive technically because you've got a moon boot on. You're not insured." So I couldn't drive either. So all these things started happening to me. And I turned around and I said to my son, because my son's my biggest motivation, he actually said to me, we're talking a little bit about fitness, and then he started doing a bit of running. And I said, "You know what? I'm going to start doing marathons."
I forgot you ran. No,
And I thought about it and I go,
just quickly, because we're stuck for time. Because I think one of the biggest things we have to tell everyone, the benefit of running. Like, just quickly, I know what running's done for me, and why is it important to run alone?
I think the biggest lessons I got from life was, I don't think I'm diagnosed ADHD, but I do like to think I've got a gift from God, and that's energy. And one thing I've learned in my time is, you know, anything we do in life, we either got it or you don't. And it's a mentality you have to have, because running, when I broke my ankle, it was very, very important for me to give myself something that challenges me every day. Now, the only two things that stop me from overthinking are the following: reading, because I can only concentrate. I read a lot.
Yeah,
I can give you some golden nuggets
Yeah,
there
absolutely.
too. But I think the biggest thing for me, and I never used to read as a kid, but my mum used to tell me that's something I didn't listen to. But I think reading actually forces you to slow down.
I'm going to make you a promise. I'm going to pull out a book today.
And the second one is running. Because all I can think about when I run, even if I've got music in my ear or I'm looking at where I'm going, all I can fucking think about is that next step. And never forget this quote. It said, when you want to succeed as bad as you want to breathe, then only you'll be successful. And it's fucking true. And it talks about a story of an NFL player that gets his head dunked in water and he tries to breathe and he dunks his head in again. And then he goes, nah, again, and dunks his head in again. Ray Lewis was actually telling the story. He's actually an NFL inspirer, sort of motivated sort of guy. And I took out of that story was, in any moment in your life, when you're sick, you want to be healthy. When you can't breathe, all you want to do is get air. When when something happens to you, I always say, and Tom Panos says this, we've got all the problems in the world when we're healthy, but when we're sick, we've only got one thing that's a problem.
Right. Can I just simplify all that for you? Look, what's the one I said to you before about don't take the high?
Yeah. Don't take the high if you can't handle the low.
Yeah, so don't go buying a mansion if you can't handle losing it, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So just to add to that, what you're saying about the fitness, I've lost my train of thought now.
No, we're just talking about fitness, how it relates to you and how does it change your life.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's where I was going.
Yeah.
If you don't have something, most people, if they don't have something, do you know why they don't have it? Because they didn't want it bad enough.
And I say this all the time, Chad, anyone that trains, like, and don't get me wrong, I don't enjoy waking up at 5 o'clock every morning.
I do.
I really don't. I go, fuck, here we go.
I enjoy it. I go to bed 7:30 just for the record.
And this is raw. Like, I'm telling you straight. Like, and I say this to John. Me and John are training partners. We go 6 to 7 days a week. And, you know, I think in my head, you know, when I get up, I don't feel like doing it. And that's called discipline. But one thing I have learned over time is I've never felt shit after work.
I know that.
But I've felt shit when I don't move.
Pete, do you know it always gets me back there? Always, like, gets me out. Dude, some mornings I can look at my shoes for half an hour. I'm not going. But I'm lying to myself. I know I'm going, but I'm just trying to
Get out of it. Yeah.
Do you know it always gets me back there? I don't even think about the rain or the 40. I think about that feeling in the shower when I'm done.
It's funny to say that.
That's my line. That's my line. Yeah, the biggest bump is that feeling in the shower.
Yeah, everyone asks me always about the ice bath.
Done.
You know?
Yeah, I haven't done it yet.
And I'm huge on this. I've been doing it for about probably a good 18 months now. And the gym I train at, the Elite, Shane, lovely guy. He has taught me a lot in life too. And every time I finish my workout, it's really just I go in the sauna and then I go into the ice bath.
I heard it's good. Yeah.
And when I go in the sauna, 5 minutes before I go in the ice bath, I start telling myself, shit, oh, it's too cold. Nah, I'll skip it today. Like, all this shit starts coming to you, yeah?
But Pete, so see, you understand this now because you're 30. So when you're 19 or 17, 18, you got no clue, man.
Nah,
see the power of having a father? Now, if you got a father guiding you through this shit, the world's your oyster.
Yep.
But most kids get lost because they're having all those feelings, but dad's nowhere to be seen.
Yep.
And a lot of the time, it's out of his control.
Yeah.
Or mum's nowhere to be seen. A lot of the time, it's out of her control.
Yeah.
See, like that voice in that head, you don't realize until you're 40 years old that life is a do-it-yourself job. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
At 29 or 30, you've lived through more than most. What does success look like now to you? And what would you say to the younger version of yourself? Just trying to survive. So remember, there's young guys or young girls actually as well listening to this. And by the way, believe me, I want to attract more female listeners than men because one part of the reason why I do this, I want to show young girls that you don't have to flash the booty to get the man. In fact, it's actually the opposite. I tell my girls, even my son, to embrace elegance. Princess Diana was elegant, right? what's his name? Not Williams. Kate, is it Kate Middleton?
Yeah.
That's elegance. That's even
Can
Trump.
I just cut in here
Yeah.
quickly?
Sure.
As raising daughters, I mean, this is a big one for me too. Girls that are going out and putting out the usual asset, it's not like it's cutting edge technology. It's pretty standard issue thing.
By the way, that's actually dropping. There's so much of it out there. It's dropping like the dollar.
Right. It's interesting when you're sitting back now at 47 years of age. I've now nearly got a 20 and a 17-year-old, and I'm now watching them. And it's not like that for them that I see. Like, they're a lot more settled, right? Now, I reckon it's got a lot to do with us as parents that, you know, if you're easy going, whatever the case is, let them do what they want to do. They're going to fall flat. And then there's stories I kept telling them about people I grew up with that when I've seen them 20, 30 years later, what I remember of them was that's what they were back then.
Yep.
It's almost like they've had to travel around the world to find the partner didn't know their past to actually have a life with.
John, just on that, if a daughter's running wild, what's your advice?
My advice is it starts with, okay, so I was taught bad attention is better than no attention. Okay? Now, the human mind, as far as I know, is actually quite simple if you know what you're looking for. So if your daughter's lashing out, putting herself out there, getting around, whatever the case is, she's missing male attention. The funny thing is, it's amazing how women and girls I've been taught will substitute sexuality for affection and attention.
I had no clue.
It's crazy.
Strippers and hookers,
A lot of the time,
all that stuff. I thought they were just money hungry or whatever.
No, I would have thought the
That's
same.
daddy issues or childhood traumas,
Yeah.
right? And I'm glad we spoke about this
Wow.
because, again, I want to give back to women because I want women to attract this kind of guy or this kind of guy. I'm a nobody, but I also know where I was and the way I was living wasn't pure. And I just made a conscious choice to begin the journey of becoming a better version of myself. And Pete, I want to try to remember this quote from Plato because you're on your way there. And it took me a few goes. I used to trip over trying to understand this quote because we're about to finish up. I want to wrap it up with this because this is my gift to you.
Yep.
First of all, there's a saying, when the student's ready, the teacher will appear. Not that I'm a teacher, but
It's amazing.
you definitely...
I just wanted to touch on quickly before we wrap up a quote I saw a long time ago, and this is why I don't rush things, particularly with women, because in my opinion, it's the biggest decision you'll make in your life. They'll either make you or break you, right? And it's actually a Bob Marley quote. If she's easy, she won't be amazing. If she's amazing, she won't be easy. If she's easy, she won't be amazing. If she's worth it, you won't give up. If you give up, you're not worthy. Truth is, so everybody is going to hurt for you. You just need to find out who's the one worth suffering for.
Pete, I was just about to give you a quote, and you, look, I'm getting goosebumps because I now have what Bob's talking about. So I'm going to give you the gift back, and I hope I remember this. It's my favorite quote by Plato. It says, "The ideal man is not just an athlete. The ideal man is not effeminate, which means too soft, like a feminine man. The ideal man is the athlete, the scholar, and the gentleman. And you're well and truly on your path, brother."
If I can just cut in quickly. The last 12 months, and obviously, I've seen you, we've known each other for a few years, different stages of our lives. And Pete probably being...
Not spoken all the time.
Nah.
Like the stars. What did you say about the stars before?
They're always there, but they're not always showing, but you know that they're there.
Yeah. So we've just, and again, touching on a previous podcast, we met as clients.
Never bought a house off him.
It never became about that. It became, like, the house became, whatever. It just became, like, we just clicked.
Yeah.
Anyway, so 12 months, I'm going to talk about the 12 months from my perspective, and I'm a guy that watches, right?
Yeah.
12 months,
Maltese Falcon.
12 months ago, you're a different bloke.
Yeah,
You were...
you're
Pretty
respectfully, you're only here because of him. He's
Yeah.
spoken so much about you.
Yeah.
That when I met you, I had the intel. And then it takes balls for you to come up and speak to me.
Yeah.
But I actually said to you too, I said, I'm actually, when you told me you guys are doing, I'm like, you know what? He'd bring a lot to this show.
I told you, yeah, I told
And
you.
I'm actually wrapped you here today, right? Because it's also another thing as well too. It's another metric for me just watching this bloke Because don't forget too, I mean, we're the best of mates, but there's also 18 years between us.
That's
right?
why I said to you before.
And
the
I'm
most
watching you.
loyal, like I don't know your circle,
Yeah.
but I do know he will never ever let you down.
No, I know that.
For life. And what we're doing here is exactly what we're trying to push out.
Yep.
Choose your friends wisely, right? And believe me, watch your words, because for it becomes your world. So avoid the fuck you, my life's fucked, and like you said before, we have that moment where everything sucks, but in time you realize why. And very rarely do I look back. Very rarely, but the only times I do is to remind myself just exactly how far I've come.
Yep.
Chief, have your moment.
Yeah, it's
As you
normal.
do.
It's normal,
It's a
man. Yeah.
It's a human experience. And then get the fuck over it.
I mean, look at that guy.
Could always be
Look at
worse.
that guy sitting over there, mate.
Hasn't moved.
Supermodel.
The champion hasn't moved. My best friend.
Yeah.
Seeing that too, though, before you sort of continue on, back to you as well. Looking back, say the last 4 or 5 years when your stuff started, right? And we're talking back, going back to like, mate, I've got this, come over, I'll mediate, whatever. Wow. And there's been so many different chapters and phases on the way through, but just watching how much you've changed, and then bang, it was the running, and then bang, it was gym, and then bang, all these little phases on the way through, man, you've changed a lot as well too, right? And in ways, both of you, right? And I've had my own battles. I mean, this is a 10, 11 year thing for me, right? I'm still learning from both years. Age difference or not, younger into the problem or not, I'm still learning. So that's where, you talk about giving back without even realizing. Sometimes you say something that just clicks at that person and I didn't look at it like that. And that's all it takes sometimes. Changes the dynamic and they go in a different direction.
100.
John,
Helps them and their kids.
one of
Third party stuff.
One of the things that gives me the confidence to do what I'm doing is because our journey's got all the dynamics, all like the legals. I'm still involved with 3 different courts, self-represented. I'm a full-time dad. I got into running. By the way, don't think I ever, one day I just woke up and decided to run. Like, I believe there's a higher purpose here. I have to wrap this up, Pete, because, man, we can talk for hours, and we will. Peter's story isn't just one of survival. It's one of conscious evolution, from breaking to breaking through, from chaos to clarity. He reminds us that change is always possible, but never easy. It requires honesty, it requires pain, and above all, it requires choice. And one of the things I would always say to myself, I am the engineer of my past and the architect of my future.
I love that.
If only more people said that, what an amazing world we would have. And by the way, the magic word is accountability. And to everyone listening, Peter, thank you for your honesty, your vulnerability, your strength. You didn't just find your way back. You lit a path for others to follow, and you found a new friend.
Thank you,
brother.
Thank you very much.
And to everyone listening, please remember, no matter what you've been through, you are not broken beyond repair. Like Peter, you can choose to be better. Remember that magic word, choose. Small choices. If you're hanging out with someone and you know there's just something not right, it's like, on a lighter note, for example, I'm not into footy, but I hate Collingwood that much that one day I find out some guys are Collingwood supporters. It's just something I didn't know, I didn't like about him, right? But you got to listen to your sixth sense. If you're hanging out with someone, you just know there's something that says everything. Your intuition.
Your circles have changed a lot in the last 12 months too.
Oh, the old saying, right? Show us your friends, I'll show you your future.
Show who you are. So
choose to do that. Yeah.
So I just want to say one last thing. We had a grandpa to the world, Grandpa Ken, who's a friend of mine, Lauren's grandfather, amazing human. You want to hear adversity, Pete? Worked, grew up in Yarraville all his life, decided to go to night school, became an accountant, married to his wife. His daughter died at 16 for an asthma attack. His wife then died, left him a young bachelor. He lived alone to 95 years old, never, ever complained. I had the privilege of going to his funeral the other day. When I hear stories like that and I see us straight away on the dating apps and I went on them, that's weakness. To me, when I look at dating apps, I was on them. To me, that's instant gratification. And you know what? I shouldn't have been on them so early. Yeah, I had laughs and I had memories, but I learned a lot about myself on those apps, and I learned a lot about people. And I would go on those. I'd go on dates, and I knew there's no attraction, but I want to learn more about myself. So I would stick around, pay for the meal, have the conversation. So it made me a better person. That takes strength too. But when I hear Grandpa Ken's story, regardless of what we're going through, he would say this. These are his words. The power of this, Pete, you're a fighter. You're a fighter. Keep punching. Whatever's going on, keep punching. So in the words of Grandpa Ken, keep punching. And all I ask is for my listeners, if we've added value to your life today, please give back to others by liking, subscribing, and sharing, because my main mission is to give back to people without a voice, to give back to people in the suck. God bless, and thank you very much for coming, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks.